What's the most awkward accidental physical contact you've had with the opposite sex? I went to high school with my cousin. We were at a high school dance or some sort of event and I spotted my cousin across the gymnasium. I snuck up behind her, picked her up around the waist and ran across the gym with her just to shake things up a little bit. After I put her down I realized she was not my cousin and I did not know her. You legit kidnapped someone. Was on a late flight going from San Diego to Cincinnati back in 2007 or 2008. I was in the middle seat. Very attractive 20-something girl was sitting in the window seat. We make the standard small talk for a few minutes. I end up falling asleep for a little bit. Wake up and she snuggled up on me sound asleep. Like mouth open, drooling, hand on my lap, head on my chest, sound asleep. Basically how your wife or girlfriend would sleep on you if you were on a plane. Very intimate considering we didn't know each other. I felt bad because she was sleeping and I didn't want to wake her by shoving her off of me, so I just sat there for 2 hours trying to be as still as possible while thinking of how awkward it is going to be when she wakes up. Luckily she was a good sport and just laughed it off and apologized. We chatted the rest of the flight and she gave me her number and said if I ever wanted to see more of Cincinnati. I recently got based in Cincy and didn't know the city well, or to grab a couple drinks to give her a call. I was newlywed to my future ex-wife and never took her up on her offer. Every now and then I wonder how she's doing. This is the sort of moment I'd love to have with a reasonably appealing stranger. Getting on a school bus, tripping on the final step and falling face first into the bus driver's crotch. He laughed, I laughed, other kids laughed, and I died a bit inside. He laughed, I laughed, other kids laughed, and I was expecting this to end very differently. At a party I snuck up behind my wife, wrapped my arms around her kissing her neck and grabbing her boobs. Yeah, it was her cousin. Did this exact same thing but it was her sister. Was at the doctor's office, being examined by a cute resident about my age who was clearly nervous about physical contact. She kept asking consent for anything involving contact, including things like taking my pulse and using a stethoscope. Then at one point, as I'm sitting on the table with my hand on the corner, she leans over toward me to check my ear, and her crotch is resting on my hand, as in my knuckle is fully in her camel toe. I didn't move or say anything in order to avoid making things more awkward, and pretended not to notice. I think she was pretending not to notice too. You were both hoping not to notice. Worked in a restaurant and had a super bitchy manager. One night, she slipped on a greasy floor and would have fallen down 25 metal steps, but I was able to reach out and grab her, possibly saving her life and definitely saving her from broken bones. She thanked me and laughed. My hands were squeezing both of her breasts and holding on like both our lives depended on it. She was a lot nicer to work with after that. I have the mental image of some guy holding an elderly woman by her saggy breasts while she is dangling over the edge of a staircase. I was walking through a hallway at work, where a guy and girl I've never met were talking. As I got closer, the guy held out his arms in a "come on through" motion, but instead, I hugged him. Afterward, I didn't know what to do, so I just kept walking. I've never seen that guy again. Oh number. Walking through a haunted house on a field trip in high school and one of my cute classmates, who I barely knew, freaked out and jumped into my arms. I was startled but caught her and also caught a handful of boob. Now I was the freaked one but she was so scared I tried to let her go but she hung on to me like a sloth the rest of the way through. I put her down at the end, gave her a nod and stumbled away. I think we talked like twice the rest of our high school careers. Missed your chance. We were going down a large water slide into the pool. I went first and she came too quickly, landing with her legs wrapped around my neck, forcing my head to go underwater. It's rare for the woman to come too quickly, but this does sound like standard practice when she does. I was 12, maybe 13, at Crush's house, crushing hard. She had a basketball hoop and asked if I play. Devilish grin creeps onto my face. Instantly took up guard. She fakes left, runs right, she's too slow, puts up shot in front of me like I am some kinda bee. Frick that. I swat the ball like a recruiter. My mother and Jesus was there watching. She tries holding onto ball. Big mistake. She falls. Hard. I fall on top of her. Harder. bruised her rib, bloody knees and elbows. She doesn't talk to me all the way up till senior year and tells every girl in school. Still undefeated. When ball is life. Practicing judo as 13-year-old boy, practicing with some girl who must have been 17. She had me in some hold I couldn't name or really demonstrate. It's been a while. As an attempt to get out of the hold, I put my arm on her lower leg and pushed. My hand slipped and I pelted my fingers into her crotch quite aggressively. I've never seen someone more angrily say "I beg your pardon." Eating lunch with co-workers at Twin Peaks. Cute waitress gets high fives from all of us for some reason. Just as I go in for mine, someone calls her name, and she turns her head, shoulders and lowers her hand. There was no time to stop. I was already in the motion. I high-fived her right in the boob, in front of my boss and co-workers. The look she gave me, she knew it was an accident, but that still didn't make it any less awkward for her and I the rest of the meal. For some reason I thought you were going to say you high-fived her face. Oh, that's easy. Went to see a friend's play that coincidentally had her getting naked on stage, which was a complete surprise to me, though I wasn't complaining. I went to congratulate her after the show, went in for a hug and accidentally got like a full-on handful of boob, and neither of us said anything and acted like it didn't happen, like you do. I was mortified though. I'm sure this has happened to some people on here, but I was in a store, snuck up on my girlfriend's sister and hit her with a boat paddle as petty revenge for hitting me with a broom earlier. Right on her butt. We were young and dumb. As I muttered something clever like "How do you like dem apples?" she turned around and it turned out to be a lady in her 40s wearing the same jeans pink shirt combo. I apologized thoroughly and explained myself and she was okay with it only because I basically told her she looked like a teenager from the back, in so many words. And no, my girlfriend and her sister just watched it all and offered no help or confirmation of the same outfit from behind another aisle. I'm sure this has happened to some people on here. I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but yeah, I've hit your girlfriend's sister on the butt with a boat paddle loads of times. A woman getting up to leave the tram fell on my lap when the driver decided to drive another meter towards the station. Saying goodbye to a friend of mine after they graduated. Went in for a hug but our faces went in the same way and we kissed. Then tried to do it again and faces went the same way that time too. We kept fumbling before getting it right and having a normal friendly hug. I think we were both too stubborn to give up, but it only made it worse. We had and would continue to have zero attraction to each other. Plot twist. Friend was gay. In high school, awkward me had a huge boner while I was talking to a friend of mine. She went to give me a goodbye hug and my dong just speared her in the vagina area. You must have been wearing some very loose pants for that. In high school, there was a girl who I had a crush on. I'm pretty sure the crush was mutual and we were doing that thing where we were hanging out a lot and talking a lot, but no one was making a move. Anyway, we went to a restaurant with a group of friends and she was sitting next to me. All of a sudden she was leaning over so her head was almost in my lap. I just kinda froze and thought she was doing some weird gesture of affection. She suddenly said, "Could you move?" I dropped something. I said "Oh," and then she said "Oh." You thought brief awkwardness where I worried she thought I thought she was going for a BJ in the middle of a restaurant. Anyway, we're still good friends. Brief awkwardness where I worried she thought I thought she was going for a BJ in the middle of a restaurant. Made me LOL in the middle of my busy, but silent, open plan office. I've told this story on Reddit before, but hey, it's so applicable to this question. I was walking through the city in August, the peak of business. The population more than doubles and the pavements are absolutely packed with tourists. I'm only 4 feet 0 inches tall. I have dwarfism, and I have the advantage of being able to weave through you lanky butt giants, so I was dodging and diving at quite a pace compared to everyone else. I noticed a woman ahead of me in the crowd, talking on her phone. She was very tall and also in 6 inches heels. I took a millisecond to admire her amazing figure in her tight-fitting dress before I tried to dodge past her, but she sidestepped in the same direction and stopped in her tracks completely, reacting to the conversation on the phone, I'm assuming. I face planted right into her butt with some force. She whirled around and screamed at me in horror. A reasonable reaction, I think. I felt my face flush red, mortified. I blurted out a sorry and swiftly darted away into the crowd again before she could do any more. Like slap me. Is it me or everyone else picturing Tyrion Lannister doing this? I was walking with my boss and we were chatting away. We were on a street and I moved slightly behind him to allow someone to pass going the opposite direction. I didn't move immediately then next to him for some reason, and as he turned out to speak to me, he swung his hands. He swung his hands straight into my crotch. He fanny slapped me basically. I don't know who laughed harder, me or the guy walking past at the time who witnessed the whole thing. Playing a game called Ninja where you try to slap each other's hands. Accidentally slapped a friend right on the boob. That was about 8 years ago, and last month we celebrated our 3rd year dating, so I guess it paid off. That game is a menace. I backhanded one of my female friends square in the face, unintentionally of course, but we were and still are close. Was on an unusually crowded subway, backed up against one of the partition walls. Hot girl squeezes in at the next stop, and full on backs her yoga panted butt right into my crotch. I had nowhere to go. Couldn't decide whether I should say something or not. Also couldn't decide whether it'd be ruder to have a boner or not. My stop was only 3 stops away, but those were the most pleasant 3 stops I've ever had on a subway. I believe this counts as losing your virginity. While fooling around with my soon-to-be wife, I tried to passionately throw her onto her back. She was on top. I misjudged the width of the bed and absolutely powerbombed her head into the nightstand. I had the same thing happen with my wife, but roles were reversed. She powerbombed me to the floor from, I would say our bed is 4 feet from the ground. Knocked all the wind out of me, but was also super funny to me. Trying to laugh and breathe at the same time was more difficult than I expected. Was playing outfielder in a kickball game. Someone kicked a pop fly in between myself and a female outfielder. I'm a 6 foot tall, 200 pound male. We were running full speed at each other, but somehow I was able to make the catch and avoid ramming into her. I decided to give her a playful slap on the shoulder and say, "Wow, close one." Right as I extended my arm, she turned and I hit her right in the breast. Not a huge deal, but definitely awkward. Neither of us acknowledged it. Accidentally elbowed a girl in the jaw during foreplay. Was trying to pull my hand out from between us, and it slipped and her face was at the perfect angle. Killed the mood pretty fast. Killed her too. I was on the tube once, when this attractive woman was moving towards the exit to get off at the next stop, when the train suddenly lurched to a stop. She lost her balance, and I reached out to stop her falling into me. Unfortunately, this involved me accidentally grabbing her breast. I said it before and I'll say it again, accidentally. Finally, I've got a good one. I was about 12-13, already an awkward time for everyone. For a couple of years I had been working at a local theater company, a volunteer organization of people of all ages. After a couple of shows there, I changed grades in school, and one of the actresses, a woman of about 28, someone I was on a first name basis with. My brother is about the same age at this time, so I was used to being around much older peers. Was now my middle school theater teacher. Awesome. I've got a teacher that's also like an adult friend to me. So one show, we're all crammed backstage waiting for our cue for the chorus to spill on stage and sing and whatnot. While we're back there, we're packed in like sardines. All of us in there, and she is facing towards my side. She asked some kind of question, and not having an answer and trying to stay quiet, I just replied with a little shrug, the kind where my hands barely leave my sides. Well, that distance my hand traveled was just enough to so delicately graze her legging type costume pants right along the curve of her vagina. She froze, eyes popping open to gigantic proportion. I was mortified, too pubescent to be able to react at all, let alone apologize or react appropriately. All this in just enough time for our cue for all of us to go sing and dance our hearts out, while pretending I didn't just accidentally graze my much older friend turned new teacher's mound of Venus. She never said anything. I couldn't bring myself to either. A sufficiently awkward experience for an awkward age. Then I got to see her every day at school. Yay. TLDR. Accidentally grazed my brand new middle school theater teacher's pubis mons with my hand before we had to go out in front of a crowd. Died inside. I accidentally hit my wife in the head during sex. It was an accident, but I hit her hard. She rubbed her forehead for a while, then stared at me in complete silence. No sex for me that night. We were drunk and getting ready for bed. I was watching a video on my phone and laughing, and my friend's girlfriend came over to watch. She had no pants on, just underwear, and she kind of sat half laid down onto the couch with me. Friend was not the type to care, and this was fairly normal for us. This got me a bit worked up because I was drunk and she was stunningly gorgeous. When she got up though, she lost her balance and fell backward, literally right onto my penis. I felt it stabbing her butt. It hurt. Her eyes widened and she just stammered out a sorry and rushed off. I just couldn't believe how cartoonish it was. Literally almost had accidental sex. My first year wrestling, I was top in a starter position, basically doggy style, with my team captain, a male. On the whistle I lost my coordination and grabbed a whole handful of dong and balls, eliciting a tea kettle like sound from the poor guy. As the only female on the team, I did not live that down for the whole season. Dang, girl, you skipped the oil check and went straight for the crankshaft torque. Let that be a warning to the others. Just yesterday we were doing a group photo for an intern whose last day is today. It was just the 4 people sit by him. The office hot MILF spilled something on her blouse and there was a big wet spot on the boob region of her shirt. She said, "I'll have to stand like this to hide it." She turned sideways and pushed her boob into my arm. It was a good day. Oh boy, as a mandatory subject we took swimming and pay for about a semester's time in high school, with an entire class stuck in a very tiny, cramped pool. While I was doing backstrokes next to just about everyone, I'm pretty sure I slapped this guy's dong on at least 3 different occasions. I was sitting in a bus, by the aisle, talking to the person on the seat in front of me and gesticulating a lot. Girl wearing a sundress walks by me right as I move my aisle side hand upwards, catching the dress and lifting it way up. So, technically no contact with her, but still very embarrassing. And I didn't even see what happened because I was looking forward and she was very quick to pull it back down. I did a hospitality course a few years ago, and we had to do a training weekend at a fine dining restaurant. As I was walking out of the pantry during a busy lunch service, another student and I bumped into each other. With the way her hand was swaying, it landed right as a perfect cup around my dong and balls. We both just froze for a few seconds, hand still there, processing what was happening, which only amped up the awkwardness. She let out a shocked yelp, looking absolutely aghast, and we swiftly walked on. Bonus awkward points. She was from a very conservative background in China, and I suspect that was the first time she had ever touched her penis. Oops. I bet this fueled many nightly masturbation sessions for both of you. When I were 19, I worked at a burger joint. I was a cashier. One time when I was handed the order from a co-worker, I extended my arm without looking and grabbed. It was not a bag with fries and burgers. It was one of her boobs. I turned around. Luckily both of us just laughed. That seems to me a proper happy meal. I once saw a longtime friend in the hall at school. We, of course, ran to each other like in the movies for a glorious hug. One of my female classmates was terrified standing in the middle of 2 6-foot dudes running at each other. We grabbed her for the hug, but I accidentally grabbed her boob. This was the day she didn't wear a bra. Similar, was at a convention and saw an old friend I hadn't seen in years. Was a pretty affectionate group he belonged to, so we went in for a running jump hug. I kneed him in the balls, at velocity, UHG. I used to get pushed around a lot in high school. One time, someone pushed me from behind and I fell face first into a girl's breasts. It was actually a very soft landing, but when I looked up, she was horrified. They were neato. They were neato. For some reason this is the best thing I've seen all week. Thank you. I went shopping with my girlfriend and I'm staring at the wall of headphones in front of my just browsing, and my girlfriend walks up next to me, says, "Hey look, I found this cool thing." Can't remember what it was. I reply something like, "Nice babe." Put my arm around her and pull her close. She responds by putting her arm around me and kinda side hugs me. Turns out this girl isn't my girlfriend. We looked at each other in utter awkwardness and both say sorry, let go and walk away. You are married to that girl in an alternate reality. 7th grade was walking down the hall during a class change and a girl I ended up dating 3 years later was walking in front of me. She suddenly stopped and whirled around. I put up both hands to keep us from bumping into each other and, accidentally, I swear, they were in the exact position to, well, cup each of her breasts. In the nanosecond I was touching her, our eyes met. We both did a 180 and quickly walked away, me in the wrong direction. We started dating in HS and we admitted to each other that experience fueled many nightly masturbation sessions. This happened at a party this last the 4th of July. My girlfriend had been sitting in the same seat for around half an hour. As we were there early and just chatting on the counter, I go to grab a drink and come back to stand on the left of my girlfriend. I immediately reached my hand around her waist and rested it on her hip. A few seconds later, I start slipping my hand down her waistband, both waistbands. Without thought of course, I just like resting my hand on her hip. Then the group gets really silent and I realize that my girlfriend was staring at me from the other side of the kitchen island. I look down to my right and my friend just looks at me with her mouth open. I look back at my girlfriend. She's laughing her butt off as I slowly comprehend. My friend is still shocked and hasn't said anything. She looked both scared and embarrassed as I slowly took my hand out of her panties and shamefully scooted away, trying and failing to get a coherent apology out of my mouth. TLDR, accidentally reached down the shorts of a friend. Friend was too speechless to stop me, obliviously kept doing so until everyone had noticed what I was doing. I'm not a big hugger, avoid it whenever I can. Only ever hug my girlfriend. A female acquaintance gave me a surprise hug and now in the middle of a hug and not wanting to stand there like a bored I let muscle memory kick in to finish the hug and I kind of automatically grabbed her butt. Awkward is an understatement. I was standing in a crowded bus holding onto one of the overhead handles and there was a woman trying to make her way to the back. As she was inching past me the bus driver braked suddenly for some reason which caused me to thrust my crotch against her butt. I was wearing basketball shorts so there wasn't much between her and my garbage. She was noticeably taken aback. She was noticeably taken from the back. FTFY. This happened a few weeks ago. I was swimming at the beach in rather dark water with my friends. I have this one friend who likes to do a lot of gay crap like pull pants down, grab your dong, tickle your balls, try to shove his leg up your butt, etc. We are splishing and splashing about when all of a sudden I felt what felt like a knee going up my butt. So I of course am trying to fart on it, so I start holding down and pushing closer to whatever was trying to go up my butt. I then felt long hair where my smile turns into a face as I see a 12-year-old girl pop out of the water. She looks at me, coughs a few times because her face was just up my butt and then swims away. WTF did I just read? While drunk at a company party I apparently tripped and grabbed an attractive blonde co-worker's breasts. I remember none of this but the story made the rounds back in the office. Went ice skating once. Crashed into this gorgeous woman in the middle of the ice rink. She tried holding on to my arms while I couldn't help but hold on to her boobs because, you know, it was the closest thing in my reach. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.